The story begins with two agriculture students, Katie and Nancy, who are about to travel to a farm in New York for their studies. They are both very excited, planning to explore the city and shop while they're there. The next morning, their uncle Jason, an FBI agent, comes to pick them up. When they arrive at Jason's house, they meet his girlfriend, who is happy to see them. Now, in the new city, Katie and Nancy decide to adopt new names. Katie chooses Heather, and Nancy chooses Happy. The next day, Jason takes them to the bus stop for their trip to the agriculture farm and waits with them for the bus to New York. Katie tells Jason he can go, assuring him they'll manage and will message him when they arrive. Jason reminds her to use a code word so he knows they're safe. Katie says, "I will produce apple." But Jason instructs her to use a different alphabet word each time to keep the code secure. As they wait, two boys passing by on the road, Jed and Lucas, notice Katie and Nancy. After Jason leaves, the girls go to a restaurant for coffee, and the same boys show up there. They start making conversation with Katie and Nancy. Katie and Nancy introduce themselves using their new names, Heather and Happy. Katie explains they are heading to the agriculture farm for their studies. Jed claims they are also going that way and offers them a ride, promising to drop them off by evening. Katie refuses, but just as Jed and Lucas are leaving, Nancy convinces Katie to go with them, and they get in their car. Instead of taking them to the farm, the boys bring Katie and Nancy to their house, which is isolated near the woods. Seeing this, Katie and Nancy get scared and demand to be taken to the farm immediately. Just then, Jed and Lucas's mom comes out and warmly invites them in for tea, assuring them the boys will drop them off right after. As they are drinking tea, Katie receives a message from her uncle Jason. She replies with the code word, apple, which makes Jason believe they have arrived safely at the farm. Back at the house, Lucas's mom gives them some food, and immediately after eating it, Katie and Nancy begin to feel drugged. Realizing something was wrong with the food, they understand they are in danger. They both try to escape, but they collapse unconscious after running only a short distance. Jed and Lucas carry them back to the house. When they regain consciousness the next day, they find themselves in the middle of the woods. Their hands are bound by iron chains. Terrified by this, they both start screaming for help. Jed arrives and tells them they are in a remote area of the jungle, far from anyone, so screaming is useless. A short time later, a man named Boris comes and shows Katie her phone. He tells her that a man named Jason has sent a message, the one she sent Apple to last time. He demands to know its meaning. Katie explains that Apple is a code word to signal that they are okay. Following this, Boris replies to Jason, writing that everything is fine. He replies that they are having fun, and even adds the code word apple. After this, the men force Katie and Nancy into a humiliating situation. Just then, a police officer named Sheriff Pike arrives on a bike. Seeing him, Katie and Nancy beg for help, but they quickly realize that the police officer is also in on it with Jed and Lucas. Seeing this, both girls become even more terrified. Katie and Nancy plead with them, promising they won't tell anyone if they just let them go. But the men don't listen. The police officer then chooses Katie for himself. Later, we see the officer coming out of Katie's container, revealing the horrible thing he has done. Jason is getting very worried about Katie and Nancy because Katie used the Apple code word a second time. Back in the woods, the men send an unhinged addict into Katie's container, who tortures her, causing her to scream in pain. Following this, he also harms Katie. These men had crossed all lines of humanity, forcing the girls into an unspeakable business. Meanwhile, Jason calls the New York agriculture farm to check on them, only to learn that the two girls never arrived. Jason now understands they are in serious trouble and immediately sets out to find them. Back with the girls, things get worse. Before the next customer arrives, Jed and Lucas place masks over their faces, and the customer himself arrives wearing a pig mask. Jed and Lucas then remove the girls' masks to show their faces to the customer. Katie and Nancy are even more terrified of the man in the pink mask. The man chooses Nancy and takes her into the container, where he does the same horrible thing to her. After he leaves, Katie goes to check on Nancy and finds her in a terrible condition. Meanwhile, Jason arrives at the local police station, where he meets the very same officer who assaulted Katie. Jason explains that his nieces, Katie and Nancy, have been kidnapped, and reveals that he is an FBI agent. The officer asks Jason how he knows for sure that they were kidnapped. Jason explains that he instructed Katie to use the code word only once, but she used the same word again. Back in the woods, the corrupt officer calls Boris to warn him that Katie's uncle is an FBI agent and that Katie had lied to them about the code word's meaning. Boris pulls Jed away from Katie's container and tells him they must get rid of the two girls as soon as possible, or they'll be in trouble. He also tells Jed they need to catch the new girls arriving from the city. Katie, standing near her container, secretly overhears their entire conversation. After this, Boris goes into Katie's container and harms her as well. Elsewhere, Jason makes it to the diner where Katie and Nancy first met the boys. Jason asks a man working there about the girls, and the man tells him about Boris's car. The next day, Katie tells Nancy that the men are planning to kill them. Just then, Jed and Boris arrive with the same addict who had harmed Katie. They tell the addict they'll be back soon and order him to watch the girls and make sure they don't escape. As soon as Jed and Boris leave, Katie starts to lure the addict, motioning for him to come closer. As the addict gets close to Katie, she attacks his neck, and he falls to the ground, dead. After this, the girls unlock their shackles and hide. When the corrupt police officer arrives, they ambush him, steal his car, and drive away. They drive to a mall and buy several unusual items: a hammer, a lot of nails, tennis balls, and other dangerous tools. They go to the cashier and ask for Boris's home address, which the cashier provides. Meanwhile, Jason tracks down Boris's car insurance company and also manages to get his home address. Back at his house, Boris is relaxing and listening to music when Katie and Nancy show up. They hit him in the face with a tennis ball studded with nails, knocking him unconscious. When he wakes up, he finds himself tied to a table. Boris offers them a lot of money to let him go, but Katie and Nancy only want revenge. Their uncle Jason has also just arrived outside Boris's house. Inside, Katie and Nancy demand the address of the man in the mask, and Boris gives it to them. After getting the information, they use the nail-studded bat to enact their painful revenge on him. Hearing Boris's screams, Jason quickly runs inside the house. Jason enters to find Boris dead. He then hears a car start behind the house, but by the time he gets outside, Katie and Nancy are already gone. Jason rushes back to the police station and starts questioning the corrupt officer about the girls again. Jason decides to call Katie's phone and realizes it's ringing right there in the officer's possession. Before Jason can react, the policeman pulls a gun on him. Elsewhere, Katie and Nancy arrive at a church. It's revealed that the man in the pink mask is the church's father. Nancy approaches him with a baseball bat, and he instantly recognizes her. Just then, Katie attacks him from behind with her own bat, knocking him out. They tie the father to the back of their car and drag him through town. They stop at a shop to buy matches and gasoline, and then they set him on fire. Meanwhile, a corrupt officer has tied up Jason. A little later, the officer brings in two new kidnapped girls. Katie and Nancy sneak in from behind and knock him unconscious with their bats. When the officer wakes up, he finds himself tied to a chair and begins begging the girls for forgiveness. Katie loads a single bullet into his gun to taunt him. They both take turns pulling the trigger on him. He survives every click, which makes him smile. But in the next second, Katie fires the final, real shot. After this, Katie and Nancy free the two other girls who were kidnapped. They tell the girls to untie Jason and then leave. The girls untie Jason and tell him what the other two girls said. Jason now fully understands that his saviors were Katie and Nancy. Next, we see Jed and Lucas's mom, who is drinking. She suddenly starts to feel dizzy and intoxicated, eventually passing out. When she regains consciousness, she's in the basement, tied to a chair by Katie and Nancy. They have also tied up Jed right in front of her. Right in front of his mom, Katie and Nancy strike Jed with a baseball bat, knocking him down. Then, they both use their bats to finish him off, causing his mom to scream in horror. They then take the mom to Lucas. They hand Lucas a baseball bat and order him to strike his mother, threatening to shoot him if he doesn't do it. Lucas finds himself unable to do it, so Nancy shoots and kills him. She then wipes the gun clean and places it in Lucas's hand to make it look to the police like they fought and killed each other. After this, the mom tells Katie and Nancy that she can give them a lot of money if they spare her life. Katie and Nancy just laugh at her offer. Then, Katie uses a power cutter to give the woman a gruesome end. Some time later, Jason visits Katie and Nancy's home. We see that Katie and Nancy are once again preparing to go to the New York agriculture farm, this time with their uncle Jason. Finally, they arrive safely at the farm.